Hey guys, Reginald Duck here, back today with another deck profile. So for today I've got my Melffy Spright updated list. I'm also going to do a separate combo tutorial, going over like the basics of it. But I just want to get this out because I've had quite a few questions in, especially the Melffy group, so let's get into it. So firstly, we've got 3 copies of Spright Blue. This is pretty standard. This is your searcher for the deck. So if you control a level 2 or a rank 2, you can summon it from hand and then like special summon it, and then when it's summoned, special summon that is, you get to search a Spright monster. So it's really good, searches every Spright monster basically. Obviously you can do it in your turn and your opponent's turn, it's just when it's summoned, or if it's summoned. 3 copies of Spright Jet. This is the other really good one. So basically it searches a Spright spell or trap, so either in this case starter or smashers. We do not play the new trap, I don't think it's that good. I mean it's good, but I mean you'd rather search smashers. So 3 copies. And then we've got 1 red and 1 carrot. These can summon if you control a level 2. The jet summons the same as the blue, by the way, I didn't mention that. These 2 summon slightly differently, so if you control a level 2 or a link 2, for these 2 that is, and then you can just special summon it from your hand. This one, tribute a level 2 other than itself to negate a spell or trap, or again, tribute to negate monster effect. So spell and trap, monster effect. Really good. And obviously they're just free extenders. 3 copies of Melffy Wally. This is the reason to play Spright Melffy. This card is absolutely broken. So what this does is, during the end phase, you can just special summon this card, in your end phase that is, and then when your opponent targets this card for an attack or summons a monster, you can return this card to the hand, which is the Melffy clause that they all have, apart from one, and then it gets an effect. So this one will summon 2 Melffy monsters from deck. So they summon, bounce, summon 2 from deck. So that is absolutely insane. And then we've got 2 copies of Melffy Puppy. This one, same again, when they summon, runs away, or when they target for an attack. So it runs away, and this one special summons a beast from the deck, level 2 or lower, so that's really good. This one, again, summons itself in the end phase, just like the rest of them, and then when your opponent summons, or targets it for an attack, comes back to hand to search a beast, not just a level 2, searches any beast. You can even search Alpha Master of Beasts, for example, but you can search like the Hop Air Squadron to help you quick sync in your opponent's turn. So 2 copies. And then lastly, for the Melffys, 1 Melffy Pinny. This is similar to Hop Air Squadron, but works a little differently. This actually allows you to synchro from hand. So Catty search this, and then this, reveal in hand, synchro with the Catty that's also in your hand, to just make like an Arclight, for example. So really cool. You can use this and Hop Air Squadron, that's why I play 1 of each. 3 copies of Nimble Beaver. It's the best starter in the deck. Basically, when it's summoned, you can summon another Nimble Beaver from deck or graveyard. So, sorry, another Nimble monster, so you could actually summon the Angler, but you just tend to summon, and then it's just a free link 2 for like Sprint, for example. So you would go Beaver, summon Angler, link those 2 into Sprint, and then Sprint send another Angler to summon your last 2 Beavers. So that's the sort of standard combo. 2 Nimble Angler. I've seen some people play 3, but I don't feel you always need 3. And also they're pretty expensive, if I'm being honest. Don't know if it's had any other prints since, but these were like a tenner last time I checked. So I already had 2, but I didn't fancy paying a tenner for a common. So basically, when it's sent from, I think it's field or deck to the graveyard, so hand or deck to the graveyard, I can special up to 2 level 3 or lower Nimble monsters from the deck, and that is not a hard once per turn. And then we've got the 2 copies of Calentosa. If it's special summoned by a beast monster's effect, I can destroy a card on the field. So it targets, by the way. So basically, the puppy that you get from your combo before summons out this destroys something on summon. And also you can bring it back, so really cool. 1 copy of Hop Air Squadron. I really like this because sometimes you need to be able to synchro and just like get something off board, like so try and get something engraved so you can bring it back to destroy it again. For example, the Calentosa, so it's really cool for that. And then we've got 1 copy of Soul Scissors. I've not seen many people playing this. I know it was quite hyped at the time, but since I'm not playing Hyperia or Capshell or anything, I wanted something to just sort of beam out of the deck with the gigantic Spright. and this is really good to have engrave, especially with Spright Elf. You can bring it back, or it can bring itself back as well. So I do quite like it. It's a shame it's not seeing any play, but I think it's quite cool. One copy of Wind Up Kitten. I figured I already had it, so I might as well, because I used to play Melffy before Spright came out. In fact, I used to play Raccoons before Melffy came out, so I've had this for a while. Basically, it's not a once per turn, it's just once while it's face up on the field. Target a monster my opponent controls, return it to the hand. So I can summon it, bounce a card, link it off, and then bring it back with Spright Elf, bounce another card for example. So it just really helps pick apart boards without destroying anything. 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. This plus a level 2 is combo, so it doesn't matter because you can just make the sprint, so it really makes sense to just play a free extender even if you brick, and then you just get an extra Fenrir for later on if you do manage to clear your board. I think it's really good. It's also good just like if you don't need to link it off, you just have a Fenrir to interrupt your opponent. Now we've got a small bestial package, playing 3 Magnamot. This is the good one. So basically, it's quick effect DD Crow, but for just light or dark monsters. So then you can banish your opponents to actually summon it. It's obviously got 25, and then on summon you activate the effect to search in the end phase. It searches another bestial basically. So this is the good one because it gives you a bestial for your opponent's turn, then one for your turn as well for an extra interruption. Got 2 Druis Worm. This is the one where again summons itself by banishing from either player's graveyard a light or a dark, and then when it's sent to graveyard it just sends a card on the field. So just sort of, you don't want to have to clear it because it just removes cards. And then you've got the 1 Saranir because you don't want to play too many of the same name. That's why I'm not just playing 3 Magnamot, 3 Druis Worm, because they are all hard ones per turn. So just the 1 Saranir doesn't really have an effect that comes up in this build. It can send a branded or a bestial to the graveyard from the deck, but that doesn't really do anything for us, but it still is a quick effect DD Crow. Then we've got 3 Spright Starter. This card is absolutely insane. So special summon a Spright from deck and then take lose life points equal to its attack. So you can only activate 1 per turn, and it locks you into level and link 2s and rank 2s. So basically 2s only for the rest of the turn after you've activated this card. So if you're going to do Zeus, do it before starter. If you've done starter, you can't do Zeus, for example. And then 1 copy of Spright Smashers. Basically, it is just the banish effect we use here. So you just banish 1 level, link or rank 2 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. You have to banish a Spright from hand or grave to activate it. Under Necroval you can start to activate this if you have a Spright in hand to banish, for example, but you can't do it from grave. And lastly, 1 Called by the Grave. Just a 40th card. You could play something else, but I do quite like it, especially against Tyr. It's just a sort of quite a versatile card. So that's it for the main deck. And onto the extra deck, we've got 1 copy of Spright Sprind. This card is insane. It basically allows you to Foolish Burial the Nimble Angler, which will then just give you full combo. So this card is absolutely broken. 2 copies of Spright Elf. This is the really, really good one. If your opponent can't out it, they're probably going to lose because it just generates advantage every turn. So basically, cards it points to cannot be targeted, and then during either player's main phase, I can target a level 2 monster in the grave, reborn it. If my opponent controls a monster, I can also do extract monsters. Still needs to be a 2, but like you can bring back Toad, for example. So really, really good. 1 Nightmare Phoenix. Again, it's rank link 2, so you can just like make it under starter and everything. It just is removal, pretty good. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. You need this for your end board because now Toad is gone. There's no point ending on there's no point trying to force Toad in. I don't feel it works. You'd rather just have an IP. So really cool. Basically lets you in your opponent's main phase quick link, so you'd make like an Avramax that can't be destroyed by card effects because of this. 1 copy of Avramax. It is a big boss monster. It can't be targeted, it can't really be attacked over, and then also it can't be destroyed because of the Masquerena. Really awkward to deal with, and then if it does die, then it shuffles a card on the field. And then 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. Sorry, I think I was wrong about Avramax, about the floating effect. 1 second. Oh yeah, it does shuffle one. Sorry, I get that and the Dante fusion confused. 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. This, as well as starter, lock you into level link rank 2s. So basically, just 2 2s, detach for effect, not for cost, to summon a level 2 monster from deck. So basically, can get the Soul Scissors if you don't already need something. If you do need something specific, then you can always grab that as well. So really, really good. Also, if it has an extra deck monster as its material, it gets double its stats. So it becomes 32. Truly gigantic. Then for the Melffys, we've got 1 Joyous Melffys. This is for the big combo that you do in your opponent's turn. So basically, it can return itself to the extra deck, and then however many materials it had, it summons from grave. So if it has 2 materials, returns itself to the extra deck to summon 2 back. So that's really good because the beast monster, when it's summoned, gets to destroy cards. So it's like a quick effect Dryden in that way. For the main one that you need for the combo, the fact this is generic is what makes Melffy Spright work. So basically, you can detach and search Melffy Wally. You can also play a trap, but I mean the trap's not very good. You'd rather search Melffy Wally and then just win because it's like 6 interactions on its own. So basically, summon it, detach, search, and when a Melffy is returned to hand, this can just negate a card and a monster effect. So if the monster effect is already activated, it won't work, but I mean if they've not activated it yet, if they've just summoned it, they've not activated the ignition effect, you can just return your guy, effect of this, negate it. 1 copy of Centauria. I've seen people playing the Mosquito instead. I actually don't own the Mosquito. I think it's like £1, but I resent paying £1 on eBay for cards when the card is 10p and the postage is 80p. But so we're still on the Sky Cavalry Centauria. If you do have the Mosquito, a lot of people are playing that instead, but it's up to you. I feel this still does the job. 1 Downard, just an extra material for your Zeus. 1 Zeus. So the idea is you can summon it on 4 materials and then just nuke your opponent's board twice, even in the same chain. So really, really good. Well, nuke the entire board. And then for the Synchros, we're actually playing 2 Merry Melffys. This card is actually really good. So basically, if you don't make Arclight, you'd make this, and I'll just read it to you because it's quite a lot to it. So if this card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, return it to the hand, which is the main effect. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to the extra deck. Then you can special summon 1 Melffy XYZ monster from your extra deck. You can only use each effect of Merry Melffys once per turn. Yeah, so it just bounces it back to summon something else, and then it's on summon, just a removal, just bounces the card. And then lastly, MVP of the deck. Tier players will absolutely hate you if you summon this, Herald of the Arclight. So it's a pseudo macro in the sense that any monster from the hand or deck would be sent to the graveyard is banished instead, and then you can tribute it, and it's an Omni Negate. So it has an effect to search like a ritual spell or monster when it goes to grave, but we don't actually play any. I mean, you could play one if you really wanted to cheese your opponent, but it's just not worth it. So basically, it's a pseudo macro Cosmos. It's like a floodgate. So that's it for the extra deck. So for the side deck, got 3 copies of Ghost Bell. I think it's pretty good against Tyr, but I didn't want to overdo the main deck against Tyr because there is a lot of Rogue at my locals. So you do not want to just keep getting slapped by Rogue and having nothing to side for him. So I'm playing a little bit against Tyr, but not too much. Got 3 copies of Ash Blossom because at my locals, the guy who showed me Dino FTK, he thought it died of Hulk. I re-showed it back to him and now it's back on Dino FTK. So if you ash the Misk, if you ash whatever, Branded Fusion, it really makes it so you just don't die in a turn, which is nice. And also just random decks. If you need to take Bestials out, Ash can always go in against anything, pretty much. 1 copy of Druisworm is just an additional copy of a Bestial. It's the best one that we'd already play 3 of, just against Tyr. 3 copies of Evenly. It's awkward if you have a Bestial and Evenly in hand. You might not want to summon the Bestial because then you won't be able to use the Evenly next turn. Or if you draw this for your 6th card, having summoned a Bestial, it feels bad. But The card is insane, especially against like back row decks and stuff, so I'm not sure. 2 Dark Ruler. So many combo decks knocking about, especially at mine, so you just want to get rid of, because even these tier 2, tier 3 combo decks, if you don't have a hand trap, they will put up an insane board these days, so you just want to be able to blank the board and then negate it. Blank the board and then just win. 2 copies of Cosmic. A lot of people still on Eldritch. I know the Bestials have made a big difference, especially in the main deck, but the ability to hit like a Hequero, Conquistador, an activation, or even a Floodgate is really, really helpful. And lastly, 1 Duster, because there is nothing worse than back row decks. And I play a lot of back row decks, but that's why I have such weird feelings about this card, because I love it when I draw it, and I hate it when my opponent does. But that is what it is. That's the side deck. It is a work in progress. I'm hoping to play this at the YCS, but it is a couple of months away, so we'll have to see. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.